Welcome to this first part of Serial for December 2024. So like every month, I'll be looking at pictures taken previously during the last months or edited. And we're directly starting with film. This is Vision3 film, that's Cine film, so for movie making by Kodak, put in rolls by Ars Imago under the name 250D, it's daylight color balance. And on an Olympus XA2 camera, very portable, one-hand usable camera with a 35mm f3.5 lens and a pictogram focus. So yeah, the first two pictures, this kind of film is hard to develop, at least for me. You find chemistries, but it's ECN2. So this one actually stayed a long time in one of my boxes for developing because I asked Ars Imago to develop it, but way later, basically last month. And those pictures are from last summer. First picture, I'm not sure. It's the first picture in the roll. So I'm not sure if it's only the light leak or if I'm actually taking a picture of something, but I really like the rendering. Picture on the right, of course, that's the view of the sky from an airplane. I thought actually the flare of this lens is interesting. I really like how it got out. And I like the grain of Vision3 film. Here are two pictures in Sevilla, in Spain. Very warm color balance. Even so, it's scanned, and I correct some parts of it. The rendering overall is very warm and very nice, very fine grain. Yeah, it really gives a good idea. The picture on the left, that's in Sevilla. I think it was June or end of May. And on the right, that's the center of contemporary art, Andalusian contemporary art, a really great location. Yeah, and a detail from the place. Again, two pictures, same equipment, this Andaluz, Centro Andaluz de Arte Contemporáneo, just around the gardens. I thought interesting renderings. I like the way this lens works. This camera is always very pocketable. And yeah, the type of color balance coming out of the film and the grain. I think it's a very interesting Vision3 film. It's interesting. If you're able to develop it yourself, it might be easier, but it's something to consider. Here we're going to digital using Leica SL2 as a body, and on it a Sigma 100 to 400mm f5 to f6.3 lens. Sigma does some really great modern lens. It's been doing so for a few years. I'm testing this super zoom. I don't know how to name it. But it's kind of, the aperture is not that good, but the quality is really good overall. The only problem I will see with someone like me, which doesn't clean, or I always have some dust on my sensor at f5, f6.3, you will see some of the dust on the sensor. But otherwise here, that's from the Alftanes Peninsula, south of Reykjavik, looking even more south towards Grindavíkurberg, the region where all those volcanoes have been evolving these last years. You can see that between 100mm and 400mm, you really can work on something very different. So I thought those two pictures were interesting. I'll probably do a review of this lens. And if you choose your subject better, like here, you have this house, same place, looking also south. Sunset, which is pretty early at that time of the year. I thought that picture was interesting. It shows you the ocean. It's really freezing, so it's ice, and the foam from the ocean kind of fixated by the cold. Or on the right, it's looking north, basically same location, looking towards the Grot Island Lighthouse and Mount Esja, that's north of this big mountain that's north of Reykjavik. Sort of, I think you can use that kind of focal length to get some really interesting results. Here we're going to film using medium format camera, the Fujica GW690 with GCH Street Pan 400. That's Japan Camera Hunter film. It's kind of a little bit IR sensitive. Picture on the left, as you can see, it's the same house and the frozen sea on front. yeah, and the picture on the right, I'm experimenting with this camera, and I had this film which is kind of expired here, but I wanted to do a few tests. And the picture on the right, that's the north of Reykjavik, the industrial. Well, all the packaging is for big ships is done in that region. Not very sure of what's what, but it's basically the port, industrial port harbor is there. But so it's handheld, so it moves. But I kind of like the ambiance. I like how it renders. Again, 2 pictures using this equipment. You don't have that many pictures in one roll of 120 film, so because it's quite a large surface. And here's a film, kind of the background paper kind of impregnated its texture into the film. But I nonetheless like the results, both in this nighttime image on the left, kind of motion blurred, or actually this lens is really great, and you see this this range of in focus dark black gravel from Iceland is really interesting. And with this film, I think it's an interesting result. 2 more pictures going to a different equipment. Here it's I'm going towards ending one of my tests of a lens, which is a Jupiter 8 Soviet era lens, a 50mm f2, and here it's on an SL2 body. That's Selfoss. It's a city southwest of Iceland, which is kind of a small town, probably 10 to 15,000 inhabitants. Very cold day. We're actually around 2-3 p.m. at that time. It's sunset because it's that time of the year. But really this northern feeling. I was testing both the lens and doing some pictures for the fun of it. I like documenting places like this. And here are 2 more details of that town. I like the rendering of this lens. I've always liked those Soviet-era Jupiter lenses. They're super cheap also. They're not expensive. And while they're a little bit more randomly built, they're not all very equal, but you'll get some really interesting tools. Here are 2 more pictures with lower lights, with the moon and this ambiance of that place, of this town, which is really great. Or by night, trying to use this optical construction of this Jupiter 8 lens, which is really a classic, to the advantage of creating some ambiance. That's a long exposure with the in-body image stabilization of the SL2. And 2 different angles of a bridge. The bridge going over the river we saw before in the pictures before. I kind of like the overall rendering. The combination, the SL2 camera is really a great camera for adaptation to older lenses, in my opinion. That same day, I was testing also a Summicron Leica, an old construction 35mm f2.0 lens. Here on a Leica M240, it's kind of an old M rangefinder camera from Leica. But yeah, it works great. It's 24 megapixel sensor, but yeah, kind of a sturdy and solid camera. Interesting, nice to use actually. And that was the same Selfoss region with those kind of icebergs, I don't know how to name them, in the river, and that ambiance. It's a really different rendering. And to compare, because I had both of those equipments, here are pictures taken both with, on the left, that's a 35mm. I'm not a big fan of 35mm, to be honest. It's not really a lens I like, this Summicron 35 f2. It's an old optical construction. I tend to prefer the warmer rendering of the Jupiter 8, as you can see on the right. And yeah, the bokeh, but I think it was a good example to show how different the choice of the lenses you have can transform what you're doing, your work. Again, 2 pictures comparing the 35mm on the left and the 50 on the right, with really this warmer tones of the Jupiter 8. I thought it was interesting to compare a little bit. That's it for the first part for this month. So don't hesitate to post comments, suggestions, propositions, and yeah, catch you soon for the second part.